Welcome, Thoroughbred Makeover, class of 2023. I'm Kirsten Green. I'm the Executive Director of Retired Racehorse Project, joined here this evening with Kristen Bentley, our Communications Manager, and Rayna Erasmus, who is our Program Assistant, which woefully understates how hard she works here. She is also the Thoroughbred Makeover Secretary and your mother hen for the year. She is your first point of contact for all things competitor related. So welcome. This is the, what are we on, 8th year of the Thoroughbred Makeover at Kentucky Horse Park. And every year this event involves hundreds of trainers helping hundreds of horses. And it has really solidified itself as a part of the aftercare community for a number of great reasons. We are working very hard as an organization to give you guys the support and resources that you need to be successful with these horses. We are trying to drive demand, which helps to place horses more efficiently into their next careers, and offering a showcase of all of the great things that this breed can do, and hopefully inspire more people to pick the thoroughbred as a riding horse. And it works. It works really well. We track a couple of different data points, and the cost of acquiring horses immediately off the track is up, which is kind of one of the big metrics that we look for. And every year we have a really healthy portion, usually the majority of people that are coming to the event are new and doing it for the first time. This year, I think about 60% of our entry field is new, which is a great sign. So one of the things that we hadn't planned on, but has become one of the best things one of the best parts of this event, because it takes place over a number of months, is the community, which is part of why we run that Facebook group. You are going to make some friends this year, and that's the greatest part, because everybody here is going towards the same goal, and we're all here to support one another. And it is truly one of an unusually positive and vibrant group of horse people that are just incredibly supportive, and we're pretty proud of that. So what else am I supposed to cover at this point? I think a lot of you looking at social media yesterday saw that we do have a little accepted graphic, which you're welcome to download from your acceptance letter that you got yesterday and use on social media. You're welcome to use it if you have websites, that sort of thing. I believe it's in a format that you can overlay it on Facebook pictures and that sort of thing if you're savvy. So we encourage you to wear that badge of honor. So Rayna, housekeeping, I guess, generally, we're live on 2 places. We're live on Zoom, we're live on Facebook. You can put your questions in the Q&A on Zoom. You can put your questions in the comments on Facebook, and we will have a look at them. This is being recorded, so if you do have to hop off, it will be posted on our YouTube channel, in the Facebook group, in the video section. There's a number of different ways that you can go back and access that. Questions, we have a lot to cover this evening, so you're welcome to pop your questions in the chat or in the Q&A at any time, but we're probably going to wait until we kind of get through everything to cover the questions, just because chances are we're probably going to cover it for you. So with that, Rayna.
Yeah, in a similar vein of housekeeping, I'm going to lead with, if you haven't already, and even if you have, read the rule book. The rule book is your best friend, along with me, until October, and in October as well. It truly probably has the answer to your question, and if you think it doesn't, check again and then email me and ask. So between the rule book and the portal, the trainer portal, those will be the 2 things you'll be utilizing the most this year. All of our communications will be done through email, and our newsletters will be posted in the portal as well. All of your paperwork, when that is due, you will do that through the portal. So make sure that you are receiving our emails and checking your spam folders. We will have a sign-up list if you have coaches or parents that want to be on our email list as well to get the newsletters. we'll send that out, but it is super important to remember that in terms of personalized notifications and emails. So if I'm emailing you to remind you that, hey, you haven't turned in X or missing X from you specifically, I can only send those reminders to the email that is associated with the application. So make sure that email is one that is being monitored regularly, whether that's by the trainer or somebody else, and that email works. If you have any issues and you need to change the email associated with your account, you can email me, secretary@therrp.org. And yeah, like Kirsten said, anything you need, I'm your girl. So email me, and like, we do keep pretty strict business hours around here, so I'll get to that in a minute. But I am here to help you. So that covers a little bit of the rule book and newsletters. In terms of how to contact us, like I just said, primarily email to me is going to be your best way to contact us. Messaging any of us on social media or even the RRP accounts is not an appropriate way to reach us. We do not monitor those inboxes, and our personal accounts are for personal use only. The Facebook group is also not meant for rule-related questions. All of that, you should be contacting me directly. The staff works 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And you can call us, but generally the best way to reach me is by email. And if we need to set up a phone call, we absolutely will.
I'm just going to add something here just about communicating with us, with RRP and Facebook and all that sort of thing. We like you and we want to be friendly with you, and our willingness to interact with you on Facebook has nothing to do with like how helpful we want to be. We have like the ratio of staff members that can help with competitor stuff to like the number of you is not a great ratio. And it's just a matter of making sure that the things that we need to take care of for people are like routed to us in the most efficient way possible. And really, truly, that is email for us, because it's a documented thing that we can check off and say, like, we took care of this and we're on to the next thing. Please be patient. A lot of the time, like particularly when we get close to big paperwork deadlines, Rayna's email gets really backed up. And emailing her numerous times does not make her get back to you faster. It just makes her blood pressure go up and puts another thing in her inbox that she has to deal with. And, you know, the tough thing, you know, just as a general commentary about the use of Facebook is that we do absolutely have to use Facebook for work, and it makes it very difficult to have like a good work-life boundary. And so like you messaging us at, you know, 8 o'clock on a Sunday night with a question like may seem pretty benign, but like that's just invading our personal time and space, and like the time that we need to like regenerate our energy and be ready to serve you guys during normal business hours. So our team works very hard, and it is something that for me in a leadership position that I am very mindful of, is protecting their time and energy. So please help me in that, because it just helps them to be more helpful and more friendly to you. So it's not that we're sticks in the mud and that we're jerks, but that is just the way that we have found works best for our team to make sure that we are efficient and friendly with you guys. So thanks in advance.
Thank you guys. It is really important. So we also have our critical dates. We did just pass 2 of them, right? Regular acceptances closed, I believe, on January 20th. And acceptances, general acceptances, were announced yesterday. So the next one that's somewhat coming up, it's not so much of a deadline as the beginning of the, it's the earliest date. April 9th is the earliest date that you can vaccinate your horse for EHV1 to be compliant. So all horses participating in the makeover must have had their EHV1 vaccine administered no more than 6 months prior to their move-in date to the Kentucky Horse Park, and no less than 14 days. So the last possible day you can vaccinate your horse is Monday, September 25th. The next deadline is Friday, June 30th, and there's quite a few different things going on this deadline. Late applications close, so yes, we are still accepting applications. There is a $100 late fee associated with it, but as of right now, we are not instituting a wait list. So if you have friends or family that wanted to apply, maybe didn't have videos yet, or just totally missed the deadline, there still is time, and we are considering these applications just like we would any other. There is just an additional late fee. So still plenty of time to get that done. And again, if anyone has any questions or concerns about getting that done, you can email me. A couple other things happening on Friday, June 30th. Some of you might have noticed in your acceptance letters that you had either a mid-year check-in or a limited non-jumping restriction. If you got a limited non-jumping restriction and you want to jump at the makeover, you're going to need to supply a new video of you jumping. And that needs to come to me via email in the form of a link, just like on your application. So upload it to YouTube or Vimeo, and I will pass that on to the committee to review in consideration for lifting your non-jumping restriction. Those of you that have mid-year check-ins, you'll all have different requirements, but you'll need to make sure that you get whatever those specs are, whatever the requirements are of your mid-year check-in to me no later than 5 p.m. on June 30th. That is super important. If you do not fulfill the requirements of your mid-year check-in, you will not be granted access to the final entry form. And then the two other things that are happening on June 30th, similar to late applications, this will be the last date that already accepted trainers can add more horses. So if you applied and were accepted to bring one horse, but you now have 2, maybe even 3 horses that you want to bring, you can email me anytime until June 30th and request an invoice for the additional horse registration fees. That'll need to be paid by June 30th. And once I get that paid, I will update your horse count appropriately. And the last thing, June 30th is also the last date to request trainer replacements. So if you have a horse already registered, ready to go, and let's say you got injured and you want to nominate somebody to take the horse in your place, you're going to have to do that by June 30th. This is not to be confused with a catch ride. This is going to be someone that is not already an accepted trainer and needs to fill out an application. There, I don't believe is a fee associated with this, but you would need to declare that with me by June 30th. And same thing, any entry type changes. So if you're currently entered as an individual or a team and you need to swap that, or you need to add team members or change your team members around, whatever that is, you have time to make those changes, but it does need to be done or requested by June 30th. Then the next deadline is July 28th. It's a Friday. And that is our horse registration close date. This is a very important one to remember. If you do not register your horse by 5 p.m. on July 28th, your entry will be considered withdrawn. This is very easy to do. Again, it's through the trainer portal. You'll scroll down to where it says My Horse Registrations. There's an action column and a drop-down menu, and you'll select Register a Thoroughbred, and that'll take you to the registration form. If you have a horse in your barn right now that is eligible, even if you're not sure if they're the one that you're going to take, register them. A horse cannot be considered a makeover graduate if they haven't been registered with us, and they don't even have to go to the makeover to be considered a graduate. But they do need to be registered with us. Another thing about horse registrations, you can swap what horse you're bringing anytime, as many times as you want, up until that July 28th deadline. And as long as the horse has been registered with us, even if they have been withdrawn for whatever reason, they would be eligible to be listed in our ASPCA Makeover Marketplace in August. So you want to make sure you register your horses before July 28th. Like I said, if not, your entry will be considered withdrawn. And the next deadline we have is August 1st through 15th. That's the final entry open and close. The final entry form is where you're going to declare your disciplines. So we know you all selected a discipline on your application. That doesn't actually lock you into a discipline in October. That is just to give the application review committee an idea of what you're aiming towards and where your experience is in. But it doesn't enter you into that discipline, nor does it lock you into it at all. So on the final entry form, you'll select up to 2 disciplines per horse. If you're on a team, you'll declare who's riding what. You'll reserve your stalls. You'll enter into the ASPCA marketplace. You'll record your microchips if you have them, which you should. We'll get into that in a minute as well. And same thing with horse registrations. If you do not, if you do not submit your final entry form by August 15th, your entry will be considered withdrawn. And for all of these deadlines, they all will close at 5 p.m. Eastern time on a business day. The only part that is a little bit not in line with that would be the EHV1 vaccine, because obviously it opens on a Sunday, but that doesn't really have much to do with us and our paperwork. So those are the biggest deadlines that you guys will want to keep in mind. And we will have several webinars and reminders leading throughout the year to remind you guys of these things. Did you have something that you're saying? Sorry.
That, I mean, just a word about deadlines. We do not chase you for your paperwork. Like, there was a time when I had Rayna's job and I would be personally calling people and trying to take their final entry forms over the phone and that sort of thing. We do not have the capacity for that anymore. There's too many of you. There's not enough of us. So these deadlines are posted in every email communication that you get from us. They're posted in the trainer portal. They're in the rule book. There is really, like, I hate to say it, there's really no reason to miss these deadlines. And some of them we really have no room to negotiate on, particularly the final entry form. There are so many things that get set in motion that are event-based that we cannot hold on. Like, if you come to us and you want to register a horse late, like, if it's in our scope to do so, like, and you want to pay the late fee, like, we will try to work with you. But that final entry form, like, we do not play. And we have told people, like, sorry, doors closing. And we hate doing that, but we also remind you guys of that numerous times a year. Send a lot of general emails and that sort of thing. When I say we don't chase you, like, we do chase you, but we're not going to be personally calling every single one of you that's missing paperwork, because there's usually a couple hundred of you. So just please help us help you, and stay proactive about your deadlines, particularly the horse registration, because that's one where you can knock it out at any time and you can change it at any time. Like, plans can change, and all the way up until that final, the end of July 28th deadline. Like, you can change those things around, swap horses, do what you need to do. So and there's also a human being that processes all of those forms. So the more that you can get that done kind of as those things are transpiring helps us as well. So that's my grumpy reminder.
Absolutely. And please, where you can, like Kirsten said, please do not leave it until the last minute. It creates a huge bottleneck for us. We do have those deadlines for a reason, but we really hope those of you that have the ability to get it done ahead of time will. It helps us out a lot. And like Kirsten touched on, we do, in some cases, we have the ability to accept late paperwork with a $100 late fee, but we do not always have the capability to offer that to you. So just because we have a late fee doesn't mean we can always accept your late paperwork, especially like Kirsten said with the final entry form. That one is super, super important. I touched on this a little bit, but some of you might have noticed, if you're not in a team, if you're a first timer, we do offer team entries. We'll get more into the weeds about that later in the year, but essentially team members share in the process of training and they share in the competition. So if you're on a team, that's a minimum of 2 people. And while you can enter a horse in up to 2 disciplines, it doesn't mean one team member does one discipline and one team member does another. Every discipline that a horse is entered into, they need to be shown ridden by at least 2 team members in each discipline. The rule book breaks down the team competition format for every single discipline as well. And the team captains are the ones that are responsible for uploading all of the paperwork. They're responsible for the horse's health documents. They're responsible for the horse registration form, and they're responsible for the final entry form. Team members are responsible for submitting their own team member application. And after that, everything is on the team captain. To touch on a little bit, some of you might have noticed while you're scrolling through the entries, some of the horses that are already registered have a green horse head logo next to their name. All that means is that whoever registered the horse indicated that the horse might possibly be for sale. Right now, that's what that means. After final entries close, that logo will mean that that horse is entered in the ASPCA Makeover Marketplace. And code of conduct, Kirsten, I'll let you take it away on that one.
So when you guys submitted your trainer application, you checked off a couple of boxes and scribbled your signature on a couple of things. And one of those was an acknowledging that you've read the rule book and you understand the code of conduct. So that is our way of saying, like, you agree to the terms of participation. And no one's going to like the way I put this, but participating in the Thoroughbred Makeover is a privilege and not a right, as is all horse showing. And you need to abide by the rules and you need to represent the program to the standards that we expect, which is with professionalism and quality horsemanship. We live in a day and age where nothing is private. And I wish I could say that I've never gotten any complaints about Thoroughbred Makeover trainers, but I have. And I don't enjoy dealing with it. We live in the age of the screen cap. Like, once you put something out into the world, it's out there for good. So please, before, during, after the makeover, conduct yourselves with professionalism and grace. Because if I hear about being a bully on the internet, not feeding your horses, cheating, all of those sorts of things, I have to respond to them. And that's not how I like to spend my time. And that is not in the spirit of what we as an organization are working towards. We do have a protocol on our website that is available to the public for any member of the public, not just makeover trainers, to register a complaint with us of somebody that is violating our code of conduct, breaking rules, and we look into those. We have an infractions committee that helps us look into that sort of thing and decide what we're going to do about it, up to and including saying you're not welcome at this event. And if you think that that hasn't happened before, you'd be wrong about that too. We take this sort of thing very seriously. And you know, all of that said, we do have that public forum and we can't do anything about anything that we're not made aware of. So nobody likes to narc on other people, but that's also the only way that we can take care of things that aren't going the way they're supposed to. So if you see something, say something. But genuinely, it's not like we deal with a ton of this sort of thing, but you know, your name is on a list on our website, your horse's name is on a list on our website. And, you know, if you are doing something bad out there or a horse that was affiliated with you at some point, it's very easy to search Facebook and search horse names and search people names and link you back to us. And like, we're often the first people to hear when something goes sideways. So please just be cognizant of that and conduct yourselves with care and professionalism.
Thank you. And moving on from that, we have our health requirements. So the RRP requires our Thoroughbred Makeover trainers to uphold a high standard of horsemanship. And we enforce this partially through our health document requirements, as well as our arrival exam. So if you guys are not aware already, all horses, when they get to the Kentucky Horse Park in October, will have to pass an arrival exam in order to compete. There are details about this in the rule book. So please familiarize yourself with the requirements and establish a good relationship with your vet. Make sure you guys are on track to meet these requirements throughout the year. Please don't wait until August and start scrambling because you don't think your horse is at a good weight. We have plenty of great resources on nutrition and conditioning, and articles and webinars, all available on our website and YouTube channel. The trainer group is also a great resource for these things if you're struggling. Start now. And we're happy to help. We're here to help. But the first thing we're going to tell you to do is to consult your vet. We're not going to be able to give you a body condition score off of pictures. You really need to have a vet come, put hands on your horse, and give you those next steps. Along with that, we've already touched on the EHV1 requirement. Your horses will also need to have a Coggins and be sound in hand, and they need to be microchipped. Please, whatever you do, before you go and buy a microchip and insert one into your horse, scan them thoroughly, like everywhere. They migrate, and you're going to want to go and find it, because your horse might already be microchipped, and trying to register a second one with the jockey club can be a little bit complicated.
Well, statistically speaking, like, your horse probably does have a microchip, because they replaced the tattoo with the 2017 full crop. So those horses are 6 years old. That's like just past the average age of our makeover horses, like from year to year is usually 5 or 6. So the chances are good that your horse has one already. I hope that we're kind of reaching that tipping point, because it'll become less of an administrative nightmare for us. But please do check first, because we have had horses come back with like 3, 4. And I also understand in Canada, they sometimes put them in the upper lip. So you want to check there as well if your horse raced in Canada.
Yeah. Well, and even too, if you happen to have the sticker of your horse's microchip number on their papers or whatever, still scan them and make sure that you can find that microchip, and that it matches that number, and that number is registered with the jockey club. Part of the arrival exam will be the vet scanning your horse to find that microchip and making sure it's registered with the jockey club. So don't just count that sticker on your horse's paper as good and check it off and go. You need to be able to physically find that microchip as well. But absolutely scan your horse first before putting a microchip in. If for some reason your horse does not have one and you scan them head to toe, we do have them in the store for you guys to buy. You can also buy them through the jockey club directly. And there are details on what the requirements are for those microchips in the rule book as well. I think that pretty much covers our health requirements. Again, that's something we'll go into greater detail on later in the year, but something to keep in mind now and make sure you're staying on top of it. And then lodging.
So there's some things that I would say, hold off. Don't worry about it until you get a little bit closer. There's always like a lot of hysteria around turnout rental. And to be clear, the turnouts are round pens, and every single year, the second that the trainer application or acceptances are announced, all of the round pens book up at Deaver. And inevitably what happens is like these reservations for the round pens get squatted on all year, and then somebody, like, statistically speaking, about 50% of you are going to make it to the horse park. I don't like throwing that around, but like horses are going to horse, and like most of us are women of childbearing age, and like it's just stuff happens. So like a lot of you aren't going to get to the horse park, and then people forget to cancel their reservations. And if your horse is really that dependent on turnout, there are other ways that you can go about doing, like getting your horse the like leg stretches and everything that he needs. It's central Kentucky. There are plenty of layover barns that like you could ship home to in the evening and turn out overnight. Like there's more cost-effective ways of doing that. And we put together resources for that when we get closer. So like, please try not to freak out about turnouts right now. They're really not all that. Some people swear by them, and that's fine. If you want to pay a silly amount of money for a round pen, you do you. But I really would not urge people to do that right now. I would, if you are planning to camp, particularly if you want a horse ground or horse park campground spot with an RV hookup, run, do not walk, because there is like a Halloween themed like campground thing that always ends up happening. on Makeover weekend. And there's also a Darius Rucker concert happening on Friday night during the Makeover, which is like a separate thing for like UK healthcare, but like I would imagine that there might be some people that are coming into the campground for that too. So if that is what your concern is, like there is always a number of people that get to like August and they're like, oh my God, I can't get a camping spot. Like do that now. I like do your Airbnb, do your like hotel reservation, whatever you want to do. It's fall in Central Kentucky is busy. Keeneland's running, University of Kentucky games, like all of that stuff. So just knock that part out now. We do have a group rate with a hotel in Georgetown, which I'll be updating on the website shortly. So block hotel rate available as well, but I would go ahead and knock that stuff out. And then like Rayna covered earlier, final entry time is when we do stabling reservations, and that's all handled through us. Like do not call a horse park to try to reserve a stall. Like that gets done through us on the final entry form. So you don't have to worry about that piece, and that doesn't come up until August. Like there's no concern about whether or not there's going to be enough stalls or anything like that. So we'll handle that in October. And generally, like it's just a great time of year in Kentucky, and we try to make sure to organize like a couple of additional events and stuff like that. So, you know, horse farm tours, you know, Keeneland tours, distilleries, all of that sort of thing. Like there's plenty to do. Make a thing of it with your family, come enjoy the time. You know, we're trying to make sure that our schedule, you know, has some social activity time, but isn't like so overbooked that you can't pick what to do. So, you know, plan to come and make a week of it. It is a kind of long week, but it's a really nice time to be in Central Kentucky. So
I'll add to that. Because I've already gotten this question a few times. I would say that it's probably something you don't need to be worrying about quite yet. But I have been getting a lot of questions about when you're going to be able to move into your stalls. And we don't know that at this very moment. We don't normally know that until closer, but I can tell you it will not be before noon on that Monday, which is the 9th.
yeah,
On that be the earliest possible move in.
Yeah, we are following Split Rock Jumping Tour, which is a huge like hunter jumper competition that takes place the weekend prior. So the horse park needs time to turn over. So when we say you can't get there before 12, like we mean it. Like your stall might not be clean and ready for you. So we do not plan on opening check-in before noon on Monday. So plan accordingly. If you can afford to get there on Monday, I recommend that you do, because Tuesday is ticketed schooling in all of the competition venues. So if you have time to get there on Monday and deal with your move-in and get the lay of the land, you'll really be able to maximize your time on Tuesday, would be my recommended strategy.
And a fun little bonus with your acceptance, as I'm sure many of you know, we have an amazing quarterly magazine called the Off Track Thoroughbred Magazine. And as part of your acceptance, you all get a free annual subscription for 2023 to our magazine. I'll be sending out the coupon code next week for that, for you guys to redeem it. And that can be for an online only or either of our print subscriptions, so US or Canada. And you're welcome. If you already have the magazine, you can gift that to a friend. That's yours to use how you want. And we've touched on this a bit already. We have our wonderful closed Facebook group for makeover trainers only. That's past and present makeover trainers in that group, as well as some officials, people that have been involved with the event throughout the years. And it is truly a great community. It's a great place to commiserate, make friends, promote your journey, you know, ask for training tips, but it is not the place to ask for rule related questions or event related questions. Those questions need to come directly to us by emailing me. And this is not to just be difficult. It's because when we do accept posts from these of this nature, we do often have trainers, well-meaning trainers, who comment on it before we can get to it, and they provide inaccurate information, because our rules are changing all the time. And we really don't want you guys to get inaccurate information that could affect your participation in the event. So anything related to the event, to rules, they really need to be directly emailed to us. Another thing, the Facebook group is not a place to air your grievances with us or with another trainer. If you have an issue with us, anything we've done, take that directly to us, give us the time to address it. And if you have an issue with another trainer, that's what our rule violation report form is for.
And I'll just like clarify one little point in there is that like our rule book does change, not all the time. Typically like one annual update. And then if there are any significant changes, we notify you guys proactively about that sort of thing. So, you know, what Rayna is trying to say is that like from year to year, yeah, there have been evolutions in like discipline formats and tweaks to policies and that sort of thing. So you could get, you know, again, a well-meaning trainer that did it in 2020 and we made like a little tweak between now and then. One of the things that I honestly am most proud of about the makeover is that, you know, it's our rule book. We're not a sanctioned event. And while we do reference a couple of other federations in their rules, just as an established standard, like our rules are our rules and we can make it whatever we want. And it actually, that's part of like acknowledgement of the rule book is that there will be times where we do have to make changes and we really avoid doing that like in the middle of play, but you know, that can happen. But again, we make a point of notifying you guys of that sort of thing. So it's just, again, you know, when we say that we're not willing to do things on Facebook and we don't want your messages and we don't want you to use the Facebook group for asking questions and that sort of thing, like it's like there's a reason behind it. And it's really just to make sure that everybody is getting correct and accurate information and we're like quashing the telephone game and that sort of thing.
Sometimes it's not even like necessarily directly related to the rules. I mean, we have a new website and sometimes it can just be about how to access a form, and that's changed drastically in the last year, 2 years. And it just might be frustrating for some of you if you ask, hey, how do I find my horse registration form? And someone who did it a few years ago tells you one way and you can't find that looking at our website because it's just not how it operates anymore. So it's little things where I know you guys have the best of intentions when you ask in that group. A lot of you think that you're saving us the time by not asking us, and you think you might get the answer faster, whatever it is, but truly the best way is to come directly to us. We're happy to help. That's literally what I'm here for. I'm here to help you guys on getting your paperwork done, answering rule related questions, anything to make sure that you guys have a positive experience. So never feel bad about emailing me and asking me those questions. And we also have our webinars. We're on one right now. All of our webinars will be recorded and you guys can view them at a later date. So they're mostly posted, I believe, on YouTube. It can take a few days for us to get them up, but we do record all of our webinars and post them. And we have another one coming up, a really exciting, interesting topic. Kristen, if you want to go over that.
Yeah, so we will be coming out with our full schedule of webinars in the next month or so, but we went ahead to get the first quarter scheduled. So we haven't done a hoof health webinar in a long time in the trainer group. This is actually going to be on our public Facebook group, and it will be on Tuesday, March 28th. So the very last week of March. That's with Leisha Harlov from the Humble Hoof. So she's going to be going over strategies that you can implement with your horses to improve overall hoof health, and then what you can reasonably expect on various timelines. So that'll also let you know how much you can affect your horse's hoof health by October specifically, but that should be applicable to anyone at any stage with their horses. So we're excited about that one. We'll definitely have a nutritional webinar coming up, likely in April, so that you guys still have plenty of time to make changes to your feed programs so your horses are ready to go for October. Most of our general education webinars are going to be on our public Facebook page because these are good topics for all thoroughbred owners and all horse owners. So keep an eye out for more on webinars for sure. They'll be coming out in your monthly organizational e-blasts, and we'll also try to work that in to market those into the Facebook group and your regular trainer emails. So do not unsubscribe from your trainer emails because that will take you off of, or sorry, don't subscribe from our general mailing list because that will take you off of your trainer emails as well. So please just tolerate the emails for a year. After that, if you would like to unsubscribe, you may.
And do you want to get in a little bit more about promoting and marketing the makeover journey?
I can. So right before we started this webinar, I broke my internet browser, so I have lost my script. So if I go off script, Rayna, please herd me back onto it. So, so I'm the communications manager for the Retired Racehorse Project. So I spend a lot of time looking over all the cool information you guys submit when you register your horses. So because the makeover is part of our overall charitable mission, which is to drive demand for thoroughbreds, we do a lot of work. And this is why we ask you guys to register these horses so early. We do a lot of work to go through all of your cool stories and get all the information on your horses. And we do a lot of pitching of those stories to racing media. I've actually started already. So someone got their story pitched today, even though horse registrations just came out yesterday. So fill in as much information as you can about your horse. Of course, we research everything, to verify all this information on Equibase, but that horse registration is really what we use to pull a lot of information to share with racing media as well as equestrian media. But you guys can also help us out with that by promoting your story to your own media. And of course, going ahead and promoting your story to racing media and equestrian media as well. In the trainer portal, as of this afternoon, we've updated our press release template for you. So if you are not a writer, but you would really like to get your story out, to local newspapers and news services, there is a template you can download and just fill in all the blanks. Nice and easy for you. It has a lovely quote from our executive director already in it, and a little bit of boilerplate about the RRP. So it's a nice way to get the word out to your local press. Of course, you are welcome to write your own release. Newspapers love it when you submit a release like tied up with a bow on it with photographs. So if you guys have good photographs of you and your horse now, definitely include those. If you want to wait until spring when your shaggy coated horse maybe looks a little bit nicer, that's fine too. But news services love to get kind of a little kit that's all ready to go. So send them that press release all filled out with a couple of photos, and chances are they'll jump right on it. One thing that I do find, especially with, maybe your small hometown paper, they love to play up the angle that you've rescued a thoroughbred. And you'll notice that we're really pretty strict on that on our own social media. And everyone will be pretty quick to jump on you in the trainer group if you're like, here's my rescue. If he's not a true rescue in the sense that you maybe pulled him from a kill pen or got him from dire circumstances and he was like a body condition of 2, you did not rescue your thoroughbred. You are simply providing the next stage of his life in his very natural progression from racing to sport horse. That is everything that we're doing here. That's what we're about, is to normalize this transition as much as possible. And so that's what we're calling it. It's a transition. Chances are you didn't rescue your horse. If you did truly rescue your horse, great, kudos to you. We're very appreciative of your efforts. But yeah, please do not use the word rescue if it was not a true rescue case. And again, that is something you have to really watch with your local media, because they love to, be like, trainer A rescued this horse and it's a great story. And it does make a better story, but it is inaccurate. And that's really like what we're trying to fight and put out here with the Thoroughbred Makeover. So yeah, really watch that rescue angle. Where am I, Rayna? I've fallen off my list.
Let's see. I think you've covered, I guess, did we go over hashtags?
Oh, we have not gone over hashtags. So every year trainers make up various iterations of our hashtag. The only hashtag that I follow to share your stuff on our social media is hashtag TB Makeover, not Thoroughbred Makeover, not TB Makeover 23, not 23 TB Makeover. It is just TB Makeover. We are not called The Makeover as an organization. The event is not called the RRP. That's something that we just cannot fight. Like, I know everyone is like, this horse is RRP eligible, but the Retired Racehorse Project is not the thing you're going to. That's us. That's the organization. The thing you're going to is the makeover. So we call it the Thoroughbred Makeover. The hashtag is TB Makeover. You will also see hashtag TB Makeover Grad. That is for horses who have graduated the program. So remember, for your horse to be considered a graduate, he doesn't have to go to the makeover. He just has to be registered in our system. So get those horse registrations in.
All right, let's see what else we got here.
Oh, going pro. I know that's on my list.
Yeah, pro status is on there.
Yep. So you guys hopefully noticed when you all very dutifully read your rule books that there is a section we include in there about fundraising to help fund your trip to the makeover, because we do understand it is expensive. I did the makeover myself in 2018, so I know very much how much it costs. You can take sponsors on as an amateur or a junior for the sake of funding your makeover journey, if that helps you out, but just please keep in mind that that may affect your status as a professional with your own federation. So like if you are showing recognized USCF showing as an adult amateur and you're like, oh, I signed on a sponsor to help me, pay for my stall, that may change that status with USCF. That will not change your status with us. You can still do that and be an amateur, but if you are intending to continue to show recognized showing, you have to be really careful about that kind of thing. So if you do not show recognized, like this just may not apply to you, and you're good to go, but just keep that in mind as you show.
And the way that the trainer application is set up this year, like if you answered all of the questions correctly, like your status with us should be correctly applied. But generally speaking, like if you are getting paid or compensated in any way, shape, or form, even if it's not cash, to ride, exercise, train horses, including on the racetrack, just because that activity is not governed by USCF does not mean that that doesn't make you a pro. So there's a lot of people whose primary activity is in the racing industry that don't know that. Like your activity, riding horses at all, anywhere, period, if you are compensated for that, even if it's like a free stall or something like that, you're a pro. So I know that there have been some revisions to the USCF amateur and pro rules this year, but that's mostly by way of like what it means to be an influencer and that sort of thing. So if you're getting compensated in any way for your riding, you're a pro. So
And yeah, to add on to that, not only riding, teaching as well. Even if it's an up-down lesson, if you are receiving compensation for teaching a lesson of any kind, riding wise, that would also make you a pro.
And one other thing that sometimes comes up, because once you get into Western land, I know the rules are a little bit different. So there's always questions, especially with barrel racers, because they'll say, well, I'm not carded, which for barrel racing would make you a professional if you have that rodeo card. But for our rules, that's what we're following. So even if you would be an adult amateur, but you have a PRCA card, great, but you're still an amateur with us. So yeah, you just have to follow our set of rules on that. I was somewhere, now I've derailed myself on the pro status. Great, must have hit it all.
I think you covered it.
My internet, my browser picked a great time to jettison my to-do list of talking points. So the short answer, the short summary of everything I just said is just fill out your horse registration form with as much detail as you can. And just because we have not reached out to you to share more details on your story after registration doesn't mean that you don't have a great story. There's just 512 of you. So I work my way through our horse registrar, Sally, who puts in all your horse's information and manually checks his profile. She does a really good job of screening for cool stories. We try to highlight some stakes winners, and we incorporate all of that in a ton of different ways. So one of the many reasons that we have that early final entry deadline is that we go through all of the final entries with a team of very dedicated people, and we map out all of the connections from that horse's past, and then we run through and we pitch, updates on that horse to all of those people. So it's a massive task, but we have a lot of fun with it. And then through Makeover Week, we'll be pitching, your successes at the makeover to those people, and of course, inviting them to come out. So just keep in mind that, participation in this is a really, really cool, awesome experience with your horse, but it is also serving a much larger mission. And that's why we have so many rules, so many forms, and so many things that we ask you for. So thanks in advance.
we have a good hashtag related question on Facebook, which is from Leela, who was our volunteer coordinator this year, or this past year. Love you, Leela. She wants to know, are we doing Field Trip Friday hashtags?
Why not? Yeah, so when did that start? I think that was in 2019, 2020. We started really pushing Field Trip Friday, and that kind of ended up taking on a life of its own. So it's not even something I need to promote anymore because everyone will figure it out after the first Friday. But the more you can take your horse out on field trips, even if that field trip means putting him in the trailer and driving a mile down the road and going to your friend's arena, the more you normalize that process with your horse, the better your horse will be and the more prepped he'll be to go to the makeover. And yeah, that usually turns into like a giant array of everyone being very pro Field Trip Friday in the makeover group every Friday. And there's always people that are like, if I take my field trip on a Saturday, does it count? Yes, it still counts. You can still share it. You can hashtag it however you want. But that's just a fun way to see what everyone else is up to with their horses, and get some new ideas for how you can get your horse out and do some creative things, even if you live up in the snow belt like I do. So plenty of ways to get your horses out.
Yeah, we as an organization, like, and kind of how the makeover has evolved has really taken on a emphasis as far as just making sure that people who are getting into thoroughbreds are successful with them, and getting your horse, like having a year-end goal like the makeover is such a great first year with my thoroughbred goal. And the community that's been built up around it and all that sort of thing has just made such an impact on people's success and enjoyment with thoroughbreds. But a big part of that, like the biggest favor that you can do yourself, is to get your horse off the property. Like, we haven't really gone as far as being like, here's how you do a success, like here's how you make over, like, because that looks different for everybody, right? But like the constant, like no matter what it is that you're shooting your horse for in October, like go places and do things as often as you possibly can. It doesn't mean that you have to go to clinics. It doesn't mean that you have to go to horse shows. Like, just go places, go for rides, like go to a place, someplace else to take a hack. Like things like that are so good for preparing your horse for the makeover, because having your horse at the Kentucky Horse Park for a week in a show environment is not something that's totally foreign to him. Like, as an off-track thoroughbred, like they are accustomed to, like, you know, traveling to different tracks between meets, like shipping in and out for races and that sort of thing. Like, that's not that unusual to them. But like the horse park has a lot of atmosphere to it, and you're asking your horse to ship into a place for a week and, you know, stand in a stall, and like there's a little bit of art to preparation and management for that. And so one of the best things that you can do is just make a habit of going places, because yeah, like he might have been a racehorse, but you know, at least for about a year or so, like he hasn't been asked to do this. So just keep that in mind as you're kind of formulating your plan to be ready for a week at the horse park, is probably like one of the top 5 like pro tips in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's why we started that hashtag, because I think there was one year where I think a lot of people just were not quite as prepared. So we were like hashtagging it the next year, and it worked. If you guys need more ideas and education on that, we have ample resources. So we have a webinar that we did with Dr. Shannon Reed for a couple winters, and it was like basically how to keep your training going when you cannot physically ride the horse for whatever reason. Dr. Reed was also a guest on the podcast that we partner with, Retired Racehorse Radio, which I co-host. So she recently came on to basically cover the same subject again with us. And then we have several articles in our education library on ways to get your horse out creatively and on a budget. And so tons of resources for you guys. And of course, you'll pick up many ideas in the trainer group too.
All right, so we want to tackle a couple of questions here on Zoom. We've got a couple. When should we receive volunteer information? I applaud your proactive approach. We have a volunteer portal that is on our website, and we update that with all of the shifts that are available. A little bit later on, like in late spring, early summer is when we start putting that stuff up. So don't worry. As an organization, we're very good about making sure that you know what you need to know when you need to know it. There's a lot of information to be had, so we try to like not overwhelm you with like everything all at once. So like as we get close to like major deadlines and that sort of thing, like you'll be getting regular communication from us about like, okay, well the volunteer sign up is live and all of that sort of thing. So just so that we don't like totally bury you with everything at once. So be on the lookout for that. late spring, early summer. There'll be shifts. You can go in, you can sign up, you can manage all that stuff online. And then you can wait until your ride times come out and then sign up after that, or you can just walk up and say, I've got a couple of hours, where can I pinch hit? So lots of ways to get involved with that.
And if you're bringing husbands and children and friends, sign them up.
Some of our favorite volunteers are board makeover husbands. Like they're just like, they're the best. Like, let's see. I missed, was there a warhorse class? There is not a warhorse class. There is a special award for iron horses. So that is the highest placed iron horse, which means that the horse was retired, raced until they were 10, correct? There is on our website, and as they get confirmed for the year, we have a number of special awards for horses that like meet a certain demographic, like where they were bred or how long they raced or like what aftercare program they graduated from. So that's bonus prize money in a lot of places on top of the core prize money that we offer. So if you haven't picked your horse yet, check those out. There's also, we're seeing a rise in organizations, whether they're aftercare organizations or resellers, that are offering incentives for their graduates. So we're actually looking at kind of doing a roundup of that sort of thing. Organizations like Mid-Atlantic Horse Rescue, New Vocations, After the Finish Lines, Calbred incentive, like those types of things where they will help you cover some of your expenses. So we'll be doing a roundup of that stuff as well. So that's all up on our website.
I do think TIP has a warhorse class.
Yeah, that might be.
That may be where the confusion's coming in too.
Is there a health class or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to hop in for a second too, because I've gotten quite a few emails in the past couple weeks, like directed at the makeover, like mentioning classes. So I just want to go over very quickly, like we are not run like your typical horse show and we don't have classes. The only difference we're going to have this year are we have two divisions, the retiring racehorse division, which is the standard thoroughbred makeover division, and the broodmare division, which is in its pilot year. This is the first year that we're doing it. They are scored completely separately, but they will be doing the same tests. Every single horse that is entered in each discipline will do the same test. There is no separate class for amateurs, juniors, teams, professionals. You're all scored together. There are separate awards for amateurs, teams, and juniors, but the top five that get into the finale are the top five overall. And in terms of like jumping disciplines, you have different heights options. All of the jumping disciplines are no lower than 2.6, but you are still scored if you on the same entries list. So if you enter the 3-foot hunters, you're still scored against the 2.6 hunters. It's just whatever height you prefer. And it's not something you need to worry about right now because that's a final entry thing. But just to clarify, like we don't really do classes. We have our disciplines and everybody is scored together. And so I just wanted to go over that a bit. I've gotten a couple questions in reference to classes. So yeah, that's where the rule book really comes into. We're just not your typical horse show. So definitely read up and prepare yourselves.
We didn't really talk much about TIP, and a lot of that will come into play later, but the TIP show, that's Thoroughbred Incentive Program Championships that runs with the makeover, we do not directly manage. So TIP questions specifically, and I don't know if that was a TIP question or not, direct those to the TIP office. Especially once it gets into questions about like, where do I go when? Like we don't know. So we'll be running that again. You know, the shows run at the same time, so it's a really cool opportunity to just get out and do more things at the horse park, but that is not our show.
There again, like speaking on like, we'll make sure you know what you need to know when you need to know it. Like when deadlines and stuff are coming up for TIP, we'll make sure to remind you guys about that because you can do both. But you'll be handling your entries and everything on separate processes. There's no like real crossover this year. We tried to consolidate that last year and it just created a lot of headaches for everybody. So we're just separating it, but sharing venues and trying to overlap our schedules a little bit more than we did last year, just to try to consolidate on that front. But yes, it's a great opportunity, you know, to either enter your horses, or if you have other horses in your barn, you know, makeover graduates that are ready to come back and do some of the tip classes, or some clients or friends that want to make the trip with you. It's a great way to just kind of like throw everybody in the trailer and go. So it's a great week at the horse park. So just check out their website for more information. They've got their prize list and everything up. So there's plenty of information out there on their website ready to go. Let's see, questions. So will you be covering information about the Kentucky Health Certificate requirements? So everybody has to do a health certificate. And if your horse is stabled in Kentucky, it can be 12 months. If it's from outside of Kentucky, it's going to have to be 30 days. Can you change your pictures once they're uploaded? Yes. How do you add the auction history? That is pulled in by Sally when she processes your horse registration. What do we got over on Facebook?
We have one from Morgan Temple. My horse application is ready to submit, other than entry type. Neither team nor individual are highlighted for us to choose one or the other. What do I need to do for this? Email Rayna?
I'm gonna say email me with a screenshot so I can see what you're seeing. And we can get that fixed for you, because that might just be a little bit something on our end that we need to figure out what's going on. So that's definitely email me, and please include a screenshot, because that is super duper helpful.
I'll just like piggyback on that as somebody whose husband is in IT. Emailing us and saying it's broken is really not the fastest way to get an answer. Like, the more information that you can give us about what the problem is, giving us a screenshot describing like what the circumstance was, like what browser you're using, like, will help us get that resolved for you faster, rather than us having to play 20 questions to get to the bottom of like, okay, like where is the problem really? So being detailed and concise when asking for help gets you help faster.
And I'm going to jump back to the previous question about auction history. If there is something that you think is missing from your horse's profile after it is approved, then same answer we will give you all night. Please email Rayna and she'll make sure it gets to the correct department.
Yep, but Sally does most of the heavy lifting for you. So stuff like auction history and whatnot, she's looking that up and plugging that in. We don't really necessarily expect you guys to know it.
Yeah, and if there is something noteworthy or interesting about your horse's career, like kind of like Kristen was talking about, we give you a box on your horse registration for that. We don't dive like very deep into the like complete history of your horse. A lot of it is just like total starts, total earnings, like information as of last start. So if you have, you know, some unique angle, like make sure to include that in the other information box, because that's kind of like the other space that we're going to go mining for like pitchable stuff. Okay. Anything else?
Well, last call for questions.
All the questions.
And while we give people a minute, Kristen, I don't know if you went over like what our different socials are, if you want to plug our socials and where people can find us.
Yes, Facebook. We are on Facebook as Retired Racehorse Project. There's also the public group RRP Thoroughbred Makeover. And you guys are invited to share, you know, highlights from your story there. That group is completely open to the public, and that is a good place to, you know, pitch your own story and share that with folks who are following along. I do at least one post on Facebook daily, but that of course is covering all parts of our missions and not just makeover stories. So definitely send me your tips for that. But if I'm not getting your story out there quick enough, you are welcome to share it yourself in that public group. We are on Instagram at Retired Racehorse Project. We are on Twitter at RRP_TB Makeover. And we are now on the TikTok at Retired Racehorse Project.
Follow us on TikTok.
You look so pleased.
Um,
We're doing it. We're doing the TikTok. We're learning our way around.
Also kind of in the vein of socials and volunteerism, we also maintain a group for our volunteers. So that's moderated by our kind of like co-ish volunteer coordinators, Leela and Peg Sorensen, who have both had the joy of occupying that position the last couple of years, have shared it. So that's in there. We post information there. And if you're signed up for our emails, you can also sign up like specifically for volunteer updates. So that is another thing that you can do to keep abreast of volunteer related news.
We do have a YouTube channel also that is typically just the place where our webinars live, as well as past finale recordings. So if you would like to watch last year's finale, if you have not yet, that lives on YouTube as well. It is time-stamped, so you can just jump to each discipline. People were having a hard time figuring that out, but we did that this year. So thank you, Leela. She loves the TikTok. I'm trying. Thanks, fam.
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. Like if I had some parting words, we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier this afternoon. Like there was a period of time in our trainer group where like people were very focused on using the term like stay in your lane. And it's kind of reached the point where that sounds like mind your own business. But the spirit of that was really you know, there will be times where you look around and it's like, oh my God, I'm so far behind everybody else. And it's easy to kind of get in your head about like, I am not making progress the way everybody else is. And I suck and my horse sucks. And like next week, that horse is going to get an abscess and then you're going to catch up and you're going to get ahead of them. So that because horses are going to horse, right? So I think the way we like to think about it as a staff these days is more like ride the horse that you have. That's like the surefire way to find success is to ride the horse that you have. Listen to your horses, enjoy the time, go at the pace that they are telling you they can go. And I will also add, because I gave another trainer this advice last year when she was feeling behind and I knew that that trainer had like moved and had a baby and like done all this stuff. And I was just like, if your personal life is asking that much of you, like, why force this on top of it? So also be kind to yourself and be objective about like, be fair. Do I have enough time and space? Like, am I behind just because my life has been insane? And just be fair with yourself. Like there is a lot to look around, a lot to take in, and a lot of things that are going to go well. And hopefully not so many things that are going to go bad. It's 8 months. It's young horses. Just take a deep breath and go one day at a time. And we're all here for you to commiserate and partake in wine and the things that we do when our horses drive us nuts. So. Anybody else? Kristen, as our resident staff member who has done the makeover.
Right. Yeah, I had like the mystery weird unsoundness in August, right around final entry time. And I remember being like, well, my coach she was like, I don't like these training timeline competitions, you know, like all through the spring. And then she watched me work really, really hard all summer. And I was like, well, you know, as you said, I don't think he's going to be ready because he's a little foot sore. And she was like, no, I think you owe it to him to figure it out. And I'm really glad we did because we had a great time at the makeover, recovered from the foot soreness. We were all good to go. So yeah, there will be moments where you're like, I am the worst ever and I don't know how to ride and I can't train and my horse sucks. And actually my horse is great and I suck and he's going to be lame forever. And like this too shall pass. So it'll be okay.
And kind of in the same, like go places, try things, get help.
Yeah.
We want you to. It's structured that way. Send them out for training, go places, take lots of lessons, do what you need to do. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, guys, we'll see you in the Facebook group.
Now you know, and we will not be answering any more questions heretofore. We'll see you in October.
Come as you are.
Come as you are. All right, everybody. Have a great evening. Thank you for your time and enjoy.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.